Arknights Enfield is one of the most different gacha games to have released in recent times, and as a result of that, there's a ton of new systems that everyone's gonna have to learn. I've played multiple betas and I've seen the pitfalls that people fall into, and today I'm gonna be giving you guys 5 tips that I think are essential to avoid making some of the biggest mistakes you possibly could in Arknights Enfield. My name is Braxophone, you can call me Brax, and let's get into it. This video is sponsored by Arknights Enfield. The first mistake I saw from viewers, and one of the biggest mistakes that I myself made, was not getting into the stock bill system sooner. Arknights Enfield has a stock bill system that allows you to purchase goods, day trade, get upgrades for your base, make gear, and so much more. These stock bills are incredibly important and you want to unlock them as soon as possible and get day trading. If you're confused where to unlock them, in the main area of Valley 4, you can go over here to this stock redistribution terminal, and this will be a great entry point for you to actually start with the stock system. When you talk to this very not suspicious man in a bunny suit, you'll be able to upgrade or trade, and upgrading is going to be important over time. But first off, I just want to show you this trading tab. These are the Valley stock bills you have, which are different from the Wuling stock bills that you can get. And the Valley bills that you have will allow you to make in-game purchases like Gacha pull currency, extra credits, leveling materials, skill enhancement materials, and even beyond that, it also allows you to purchase some in-game weapons. And they have some great effects to them, so you definitely want to get these eventually. On top of that, you can get items to give to your operators to raise their friendship level, and friendship level is incredibly important as it gives you bonus stats to your operator. Once you've unlocked this system and once you've unlocked the ability to trade, I recommend that you go through and add a bunch of friends. Don't worry, they can't invade your world. Honestly, on day 1, I just go through and do this, which I know a lot of people think is annoying, but trust me, it is worth it. Because once you have friends and elastic goods unlocked, you can go look at your elastic goods, see what's down for the day, click on that, and go to friends price. If any friends have unlocked the ability to sell these stocks, you can actually visit their ship and sell them at a profit. As you can see, this person has a higher price on this item, so I'm gonna go ahead and buy my limit of 55 of this item for 83,000 stocks. And if you go over to their stock terminal, you can now sell all of the items that you picked up for a massive profit. This got me about 60,000 stock bills, and doing this early in the game takes very little effort and can net you tons in profit. You can also use the Valley stock bills to upgrade your factory at the AIC steward next to every single one. I already have them all unlocked, so you can't actually see the unlock option, but it's there. Also, later on in the game, when you want to get to gear artificing, which is basically just upgrading your gear beyond its limits, you're gonna need certain items that only come from the Valley stock bills or the Wuling stock bills, so it is very important to build those up. One other thing you can do to get more stocks is to do daily depot node runs, which will allow you to get a whole bunch of bonus stocks every single day. To be honest, this isn't a huge deal in the long run, but it will really matter in the first few weeks of the game, and if this is a game you're planning on going all in on, I highly recommend checking out the stock system as soon as you can. Speaking of things that you don't want to miss out on, a lot of things in gacha games are time gated or on a timer, and Arknights Enfield is no different. One of the most important things that you can do in day 1 of Enfield is to make sure that you go gather all of the ascension nodes that you can. If you open your map, you're looking for 2 specific icons. One icon is this rare growths icon, and the other one is this rare ores icon. You want to make sure to get both of them as quickly as you can, because as you can see, when it's maxed out, there is no timer going, and after you've harvested one of the items, a timer will start. Every single second that these are not harvested, the timer is not counting. So you want to make sure that you maximize the amount of materials you can get by grabbing all of these that you can. But if you've run out of these in the overworld and in the different zones, fret not, you can actually farm them one other way, and I'm going to tell you guys exactly how to do it. If you open up your map and go to your OMV Dejong, after leveling it up, you can get access to some rooms that can produce items over time. Specifically, the growth chamber is what we're looking at. To my knowledge, you unlock the growth chamber after the first level up in the OMV Dejong, and it's really nice because it allows you to passively grow even more of these based on what you want. You can put an operator in, and some operators will actually have advantages and bonuses to growing and harvesting crops. This is a method that you really want to utilize if you plan on leveling up characters and their skills, because you can specifically choose the ones that you want to maximize gains on. So I highly recommend harvesting all of those that you can, and once you get your OMV Dejong leveled up, start farming even more of them. In order to level up your OMV Dejong, by the way, if you're struggling to find the items, they can be found at any of these sort of owl locations. So these are called recycling stations. They're all over the map, and you can upgrade them to make it so they drop more than just these rewards every time you use them, and there's a ton of them. One is right over here. There's another one kind of in the southwestern part of the map. There's even one over by the stock depot. They're everywhere all over these maps, so if you see an owl icon, go get it as soon as you can. Now, this next trap that I've seen is something that I've fallen for, and I guarantee you most other people have fallen for, because it's not that obvious. It involves stamina, and while a lot of people have experience with stamina in gacha games, there's a way to really optimize. Your stamina in this game can increase as you level up, and as you increase your stamina and as you level up, you will also get access to higher level missions that will give you more resources per run. Now, something that I noticed is before I ended up spending too much of my stamina, I was actually allowed to do the level 2 or the level 3, even though I had never run it before, and that was just because my account had leveled so much. But even if you only have access to level 1 and 2, there is an easy trap in here. One of the first major tips I have for you with stamina is that you don't actually have to spend to complete the previous level. After clearing the first level of the tower, the thing that makes the most sense is to go over here and claim your rewards. However, if you claim your rewards here, you will be getting less resources than if you had just run level 2. What you can do instead is retreat, and it'll unlock the next tier where you can get higher loot without having spent any of your stamina. So if any of these are just locked because you haven't beaten the previous tier, you can do the previous tier, not spend the stamina, and then go spend stamina on the next one just to get a couple extra resources. The same thing applies to bosses. If you can technically do level 2, but it's just locked because you haven't cleared level 1, you can clear level 1 and leave without claiming, and then instantly go to level 2. Another thing to mention about stamina is that there are a lot of resources and ways to spend stamina in this game. However, a lot of them are things that you want to avoid. For example, energy alluvium is not something you have to worry about until you get later on in the game, because even though it does affect your power, you can get through with just the other gear that you have access to. What I recommend doing, especially early on in the game, is spending your stamina on things like credits, character XP, ascension materials, and skill levels. Weapon progressions are also fine too, but you definitely don't need any of the endgame stuff super early on. However, I do recommend spending stamina as often as you can, just because it will allow you to get more XP towards leveling up your authority level, and it can't recharge any stamina unless you have some empty space here. So in summary, don't waste stamina on late game things, but do make sure that you spend it on something useful for you. And lastly, you can clear early levels to unlock the higher level ones without actually spending your stamina. This next trap is something that I've seen so many people arguing about and falling into, and it involves the gacha in Arknights Enfield. When you look at the details for Arknights Enfield's gacha, it'll mention a bunch of different details, like going to 120 for a character guarantee, or you having a 50-50 at 80 pulls in. Though the gacha looks pretty complicated, it's not too bad once you take a second to read through it. I'm not going to go super in depth on it because I do talk about it more in my beginner's guide, but what I will mention here is that this specific gacha system, though it is friendlier to free-to-plays who are able to save up, it does punish players for not being ready to go all the way to 120. What this means is that if you are quote-unquote building pity, which I have seen so many people doing in other gachas, you could come to regret it. I highly recommend against building pity in this game because even though there are some enticing rewards at 30 pulls and 60 pulls in, if you're a free-to-play player and you want to guarantee a character, you're gonna have to save up until 120 for the worst case scenario. It's no different from the other gacha games where you'd want to save up maybe 180 or 160 pulls per character, but in this one, if you don't get all of them, then in a worst case scenario, you could lose all your pulls without getting any of the characters or items that you wanted. So even though all of the past gacha games you may have played have kind of trained you to build pity and keep pulling and pulling and pulling, I highly recommend against building pity in this game because it will punish you for it. The last thing you want to do is pull up until 80 pulls, get the 6-star that you don't want from losing the 50-50, and then having all of your progress towards that 120 guarantee disappear before the next banner. Again, if you want more details on this, make sure to check out my beginner's guide. Overall, I don't think the system is as bad as some people have made it out to be, but this is definitely a gacha and a game of self-control, and you want to make sure that you have full control over your pulls. And hey, if you get the character early, then that's a win in my book. But in summary, I definitely don't recommend building pity in Arknights Enfield. And the last and potentially most important tip of this entire video is don't forget the factory. I mean, okay, like it seems really obvious, but trust me, there's a lot to this. So in Enfield, the game will give you your core AIC area, and it will also give you access to a Valley Pass one through the main story quest. However, there are actually 2 extra factories in Valley 4 that are technically optional. One of them is in the Originium Science Park, where if instead of following the main quest and going up north here, you go down south and you can actually get access to a farm and access to the Infra Station AIC factory. This is really important because it's going to allow you to streamline so much more of your item production, and it's not even the last one in Valley 4. If you go down to the southwest area, you can get another one from another side quest. So in total in Valley 4, you have access to 4 different factories that you can be operating at the same time, and 50% of them are from side quests that you have to unlock by getting to that area. Make sure not to miss those, as they'll drastically change your gameplay experience. On top of that, when I say don't forget the factory, I also kind of mean just don't forget to let it run. So many things in this game come from the factory, including character gear and items that you can trade for more stock bills. If you go to any of your factories or outposts, you can actually trade items with the people there to get more stocks. For example, I can actually get Valley stock bills from my outpost by trading items with them. And the same thing applies to basically every outpost, where you'll want to level up the outpost by trading items and also granting yourself some Valley stock bills. And what that means is that you're going to want a lot of the same item to be able to trade them, whether that's Orito crust or amethyst parts or HC Valley batteries, whatever it may be. You want to mass produce a lot of these. In addition to that, you also want to mass produce the items that you need to craft gear. If you go over to gear assembly, there's actually quite a few different items here that take different parts, and these parts will definitely expand and get more complex over time. As you get up to the level 70 gear, you'll start needing something like Zeronite to be able to produce it. And Zeronite can take quite a while to get. That's without mentioning that, of course, the Farium components also take a while to get, and every other piece of gear requires something that takes a while to get. Fully automating your factories to produce these gear parts overnight is going to massively increase the amount of items that you get and how many characters you can gear. I highly recommend setting up your factories to produce things overnight, because if you do, it'll make your progression so much faster. And to be honest, I forgot to set it up before I went to bed one night, and I had to wait all day the next day to get my gear. Before you go to bed, do not forget about the factories. So, this video is actually 6 tips, but 6 doesn't sound great in the title, and honestly, this is more of a trap than anything else. In Arknights Enfield, they have a really cool battle pass system where you can actually spend aura geometry that you earn in-game as a free-to-play to upgrade your pass. And if you do that, you actually get access to a 6-star battle pass weapon selector that also has a second best in slot weapon for basically all of the rate-up characters on banner right now. Now, this pass costs 29 aura geometry to get, and you can easily get all of that aura geometry by playing through the game. However, by purchasing this pass, you can get 32 aura geometry back, meaning that you end up getting more aura geometry than you started with, and you get all the benefits. However, if you don't get to level 60 on the pass, you will not get all of your aura geometry back, and this could be a bad investment for you, or at least not as good of an investment. The mistake I see free-to-play players making the most is they spend originium on either stamina like here, or they convert it over to pull currency. I highly recommend against doing that unless you already know that you have enough for the battle pass, because the aura geometry battle pass is very, very good resource-wise if you complete it. However, if you're a more casual player and you don't see yourself completing this, then I would not recommend getting it, as you may sink in aura geometry and not get all of the benefits, including the bonus aura geometry back. In my opinion, don't spend aura geometry on pulls or stamina until you're able to buy the Originium supply pass, but of course, don't buy the supply pass if you're not going to complete it. This has been the 5 biggest mistakes to avoid in Arknights Enfield, and I hope that you learned something from this video. If you want to learn more about Arknights Enfield, make sure to check out my beginner's guide or stop by my Twitch at twitch.tv/Brax, where I'm going to be streaming this game every single day for the first little bit and doing a ton of giveaways. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll catch you next time.